was the sense of hearing acute. I heard all things in the heaven and the earth. We've got some hyperbole here to reiterate how sharpened his hearing is. I heard many things in hell. I think that this is a bit of a metaphor for how, like, you know, if you, for example, my husband, he can pick up on things that I have no idea what he's hearing until he points it out to me. So we'll be in the car and he'll hear this like tapping noise, like this very, very tiny, faint tapping noise. And he's like, do you hear that? Do you hear that? Or if a water bottle is shaking in a cup holder and he'll hear it and he's like, oh my gosh, like we have to stop this water bottle. It's driving me crazy. And I don't recognize it. I don't hear it because it's not where my senses are driven to. I'm focused on other things. But for him, it's very acute and he can pick up on these little small noises. And if you keep hearing it over and over, it makes you go a little nuts. So he's sometimes like, oh my gosh, stop the water bottle, move the cup, move this thing, it's rattling too much. That's immediately what's kind of happening here. So when Poe says, or when the narrator says, I heard many things in hell, this is likening what he is hearing to a sort of hell. Like it's making him go a little nuts because he can hear all these little sounds that nobody else is picking up on. How then am I mad? Hearken. So these kind of rhetorical questions, am I mad? Am I mad? Will you say that I am mad? These rhetorical questions also reiterate, if you have to keep asking if you're going a little crazy, you might be going a little crazy, right? Like you hear these examples of, if you have to ask your group of friends which one is the one who talks too much, you probably are the one who talks too much. So if you have to keep asking, am I going crazy? You probably are going crazy. So he's establishing through stream of consciousness. Hearken and observe how healthily, how calmly I can tell you the whole story. So now we're going to be told this whole story about maybe how he slipped into madness, how his hearing was really heightened. We're about to find out. It is impossible to say how first the idea entered my brain, but once conceived, it haunted me day and night. Again, we have entered this stream of consciousness where he's telling us he's jumped now to an idea and he's saying it haunts me day and night. Object there was none. Passion there was none. I loved the old man. We've got, so there's no objective here. There's no goal. Passion, there was none. No passion. I loved the old man. But when you say the word love, and you say there was no passion, when you say I did love this person, but there was no passion, it kind of doesn't quite make sense. Like to love somebody is a passionate thing. Now this might not be, like it might be a friendship or an acquaintance, but if you love someone, you feel pretty strongly about them. So this doesn't really make sense. It's two juxtaposing ideas. So there's no goal, there's no passion. I loved the old man. I was fond of him. He had never wronged me. He had never given me insult. For his gold, I had no desire. So he's saying no issues with this mysterious old man. This is a bit of foreshadowing, like who is the old man? He's saying that he has no issues, and yet perhaps something happens to this old man. He's alluding to that. I think it was his eye, again, this stream of consciousness. Oh yes, like this is the main issue I had with him. I didn't have any issues except for this one having to do with his eye. Yes, it was this. One of his eyes resembled that of a vulture. a pale blue eye with a film over it. So seems like this old man is blind in one eye. And our narrator takes issue with that because it reminds him of a vulture. Whenever it fell upon me, my blood ran cold. So whenever this old man looks at our narrator and one of his eyes is blind, so it looks blue. Blue and milky, and it has like a film over it. And the narrator is very unsettled by this. And so by degrees, very gradually, I made up my mind to take the life of the old man and thus rid myself of the eye forever. So we have this whole stream of consciousness style again. And this indicates us going along with the narrator through his thought process, through his decision. He tells us that he can hear really well, and then he tells us that he doesn't have an issue with this old man, except for the fact that he has a blind eye that he is not, he can't control. And so whenever the narrator sees the blind eye, he is like, oh, I've got to kill this guy because it freaks me out too much. This now stream of consciousness, this entry into the narrator's mind and his thought process now gives us, the reader, it helps us form our inference that the narrator actually might have gone a little mad. This might be someone mad who we are dealing with. I mean, who kills someone just because they have an eye that looks a little different and freaks you out a little bit. Like, I don't know, maybe just don't hang out with the old man, and then you don't have to see his eye that makes you a little freaked out. So this stream of consciousness, we're going to continue annotating a bit, but as we do so, let's continue to pay attention to the stream of consciousness style and the different tactics that Poe uses in order to establish the narrator as someone who might be a little bit deranged and a little bit crazy here in The Telltale Heart.
systems all looking good, head down.
Oh, I guess you're a fucking idiot.
Let's do some more with functions. Notice now we have the whole block toolbox. We have all these different sections. If we flip through them, we can see that there's a lot of different things that we've been using throughout the course that we can use. The one I want to focus on, though, is functions right here. You'll notice how this block up here is the one that we've been using. We already used this to make a function definition, and then when we created the function definition, like we pull this block out, then there's a way to call that function right there. If we wanted a different name, like move fast, I don't know, anything, it depends on what the function does, then it'll change what the name of the block here is in your toolbox, okay? But we're not going to use this one today. Instead, we're going to use this one. And look at what's different. You'll notice how they're almost exactly the same, except this one has a way to return a value. So this function is what you use when you want to return a value. And remember, that is what happens with some of these other blocks that we've been using where they have an output. Remember, like the canvas width? It returns the width of the canvas. And that's actually an API function that we use sometimes. So let's write our own function that can do that. Let's look at the instructions. We're going to use a formula. M equals MI. You see what these are? Meters equals miles times 5,280 times 0.3048. That'll convert these distances to meters. we have the number of miles, and we're going to call our function that we make 3 times to do all those conversions. Now, this sounds like kind of a lot, but if you take it one piece at a time, first let's just focus on this, then that's not too bad. We just need to make a function that does this conversion. But in order to do that, we're going to have to pass the value that we're going to convert first into our function. So in order to do that, we're going to click on the gear, and this is a new input we can drag out here. And we're converting from miles to meters, so we'll pass in mi, that'll be our miles. And then when this function is done, it will return the number of meters. So we're going to need to have a variable. Let's create a new variable that's going to be m. That'll be our meters variable. We'll set m to, now we're going to need some math. Here's where our math blocks are. And we have to look at this routine again, don't we? So it's miles times 5,280, and then times 0.308. So let's grab another block here and put it in here. Now, mi is going to get passed in when we use this function. Let's take a look at that, how that works. Here's the function call block now. Notice how it has a little notch right there so it can snap into something. That's because it's going to return a value. It also has a notch over here, but that's the input parameter. Okay? Remember, we've named it mi. So we can use the mi variable times 5,280. That's going way off the screen. Let's move it over a bit. There we go. And then we need to times that by, well, let's make sure we have the number right, 0.3048. 0.3048. Let's get that right. There we go. Now that will set m to the value that we want to use. And then all we need to do is return the result. And we can do that by using our variable here. Oop, that's not the one we want. We want to use m, right? Okay, so let's look at what's going to happen here. We're going to pass in mi, and then inside of this function, we're going to use mi times 5,280 times 0.3048, and we're going to assign that whole value into m. And then we're going to return m. See how that works? Good. Now let's try and use it. So we need to remember what those values were we were going to actually call. Here we go. Now we could make a new variable here and save the result in it, or we could just pass the result of this function right into the log function. It's pretty nifty. So here's our first conversion. 0 miles is 0 meters. Now let's look at what we need to do. We're supposed to do 100 miles, 34 miles, and 210. So 100. Let's just duplicate this. What was the other one? 34. Duplicate this. And what was it? 210, I think? Let's make sure that we got it right. Yep. All right. And you'll notice these are really big numbers. But if you think about it, a meter is, maybe 3 feet, while a mile is huge. So we would expect the number of meters to be really big. Let's check it and see if we got it right. Hey, we did. So our conversion function is working, and we can call it as many times as we want for different numbers of miles and convert that to meters. I want to show you one more block, though, before we go on. That's this one right here. It's the if, then return. This is a way to return a value inside of your function. It's a little bit confusing with the blocks, actually, compared to the JavaScript. I'll show you what I mean later. But we could have done the same thing even without that block. We could have pulled off this meter, we could have just returned the answer to this math problem without even putting anything in here. See how now this function is empty in here, but it's returning this value. In fact, there's even a way to close that area to make it look a little tidier. And then all we're doing is returning a value. The reason why you might want to do this, or you might want to put it in, is just what looks best, what'll work the best for what you're doing. It turns out that sometimes you want to handle a certain situation, like air handling, and that's when this block comes in really handy. If we say, for example, pass in a value of 0 miles, let's pass in 0, and we wanted to show them that that means that there's nothing there, then if 0 is passed in, we could return, say, some text. So let's try that. Put some text here, and we're going to need some logic to test our variable. Remember, it's mi, that's the one that gets passed in. So if miles is equal to 0, then say nothing. So now, if they pass in 0, our function will say nothing. Otherwise, it'll return the result. So you see, there's a lot of ways to do it. The one other thing I want to point out is you always want to have something connected to this return value right here. If you leave it like this, then in many cases it'll get marked as wrong because you're returning no value. So even if you have something up here, I want you to return a value, even if it's just true or just false. If you're using this kind of block, then you need to be returning something, okay? Whew, there's a lot there, isn't there? This is really powerful, though. Now we can make a function that has input parameters, and we can also have it return a value. Try it out.
Okay, caution, caution. Virtual safety car is out. Reduce speed and maintain a positive delta on your dash. Right, drop your speed. Our delta's too low and we're going to risk a penalty. Slow your pace immediately. Okay, VSC ending. We're going green. Maintain positive delta until the green flags.
Magale. What are we doing? Mother? I will. I have one subject left. Yeah, I know. It's always how I am when I'm racing, though. Oh, I'm having a pretty decent one, though. Oh, cheers, Devin. I'm having a pretty decent one, though. Race. Race. What a race. Yeah. Yeah. What are we doing? What? Oh, yeah? yeah, because we just, I think that was the one that he got us, right? Well, I thought you were saying that the one I had bought was. No, that was the one we just finished, and that was some, like, Guatemalan thing. The one that's full right now is the one Papa got. $40.
these days. There's no guarantee they're going to last forever. Enjoy them as long as they last. I love you guys.